Every day, you essentially pay your dues by doing the harder thing when it's the right thing to do. Anyways, John, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing great.
Yeah, man, it's an honor to have you here. And we were just talking real quick. I didn't want to start talking before we missed it, but podcasts are like the only way I feel like I can have a real conversation with somebody. Like I get asked by news people to like give an article and like do this and that. It's like, you're going to take my words, you're going to chop them up. I can't give you a soundbite. It's like 280 characters in a tweet. It's just annoying on Twitter. Like real conversation is the only way, you know?
Yeah, I agree.
And you've been doing more podcasts now? You've been jumping around a little bit?
Yeah, I'm starting to. At first, it was just interesting to me, but I actually thought of starting one of my own. And then I was like, yeah, I don't know if people want to hear me just talk about my opinions.
Well, they definitely do, but it's a lot of work to run a podcast. So that's the other part of it.
Right. So I think maybe in the future, though, because this is a good start for me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, our podcast is always open. Nick's, everybody else. I'm sure many people would like to hear from you.
Yeah. But I think I'm definitely getting into it now.
Yeah, no, you're hitting your rhythm, like your stride, you know?
Right.
Yeah. And just to start is, I mean, what have you been up to? Like pandemic life? Like what's going on with you in the last year? I know obviously it's been a couple years since gymnastics, but what have you been up to?
So I was training a little bit for the Olympics, and it's when I switched my representation from going. I was at USAG obviously, and then I switched to Puerto Rico, and I remember I was supposed to compete, I think last year in the summer, a little before the summertime, and I had gone there to just do pommel horse. And even though I was training a few other events, everything but floor and vault pretty much. And I was at the hotel, excuse me, and I think I was at the pool because I just got there, and I think the next day was a competition, and I was kind of tired and just groggy. I was like, "Let me get in the hot tub." Right, I get in the hot tub, and this is like amazing, like nice room that I have, in this really great hotel. It's called like Cantado or something like that, and I like sat in the hot tub. I was like, "Oh, this is great. I'm gonna get some dinner, fall asleep, and I'll be ready for competition in the morning."
Oh, no. Oh, no.
And I mean, everything was great, and then I walked up, and I went to go down the stairs from the hot tub, and I like slipped, and when I went to go grab the rail, I like felt my arm like pinch between like where my bicep is and like my shoulder, and I was like, oh my god! And I remember I just tore, not just, but I had tore my pec over on this side, on my right side, and that was about I think 2 years ago or 3 years ago now, and I remember feeling that same, feeling, and I was like, "Oh my god, here we go!" Like, I was so upset because I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be the first competition I've had in a long time, and I'm representing a different country now," and it was just all this hype for nothing for me to end up in my room with like, I made a sling out of like these napkins and towels for my arm so I didn't move it.
And MacGyver status.
It was just such a. I feel like it was a sign, like, okay, maybe I should stop.
Yeah.
But then after that, I trained for a little bit, and then COVID hit, and obviously all this gym shut down, and I kind of just felt like this is the ultimate sign from the universe for me, because it's just without the appropriate sponsors and the exceptional, medical treatment that I would need for my injuries. There's just, I'm not sure if it's worth it for me to, train for another Olympic Games, at the elite level. It's getting harder and harder to believe that I'm going to be able to compete and have an actual, be in contendership at all. I don't want to just go to a third Olympics representing a new country and just flop around. Like, I'm not going to do that I'm not going to end my career like that. So, but I think ultimately probably going to end up most likely not competing just due to lack of sponsorships and the circumstances of Corona and everything.
Yeah. And what's that like for you, man? Like, I mean, obviously you have an insane career. Like, you've just done so much. You've been through like the rocket ship of being super talented at a young age and coming up the ranks and stuff. And to have it kind of end like this with COVID. And I know a lot of other athletes are actually going through this. Is why I asked the question with COVID is like, what's
Yeah.
going through your head with that? Are you just like you're saying, like, this is the chapter ending and I'm ready for new stuff? Is it bittersweet? Is it not? Like, what's going on through your head?
For me, I think it's kind of put it on pause, so I'm kind of relieved for
Yeah.
myself because I didn't have to rush back into being unretired now, and people are gonna expect a lot of things, and not only from them but just from myself.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of glad, and it also made me realize that I it's not like before when I wanted to end my career because of an injury. That felt like a little too forced,
Yeah.
and it felt just not right. But just because I think I was training a little bit before, and now I have more of a reason to say, oh, okay, I am really done with this.
Mm,
I think my feeling is just changed in the way that I feel content
yeah.
still without training and just doing all of that.
Yeah.
But I still love it. And if I, had the opportunities and like I said, the right, sponsors and medical treatment that I would need, then I think I still would give it a shot. But,
Yeah.
given the circumstances in a realistic sense, probably not.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Maybe the door is slightly still cracked open, but it would take a lot.
Yeah, it would have to be like the stars would kind of have to align for me
Yeah. Yeah,
because
man.
I'm just so much more into like what I've been doing for the past few years, just writing music and producing and learning how to be an audio engineer
Yeah.
and just working on my music and my photography too.
Yeah.
And I'm really falling in love with it. It's like a whole new world, and there's no scores for it. There's no like you train yourself. I just watch YouTube videos and I just learn from my friends, and we go on different trips and just try to practice a little bit. So I think that for me has been so much more fun
Mm,
um than thinking about, training like an elite athlete like
yeah.
I know how to do.
Yeah, it must be crazy going from like such a regimented schedule of always having stuff to do and you're always at practice or you have upgrades or scores, like I said. Then just like, I mean, creative music is someone, I mean, we talked about this last time we were chatting, is like that's near and dear to my heart. Like you can just vibe out, man. It like hours go by.
Yeah.
You don't got to think about stuff. If it sucks one day, cool. If it's great one day, cool. Like it's such a weird balance both ways. And I honestly thought that music and my audio engineering stuff that I was doing in high school was the reason I survived gymnastics because I had something so left field of
hmm
hyper focus that it really kept me in a really good headspace throughout some really tough times. So maybe you're experiencing the other side of that flip coin, you know?
Yeah, and I just always felt like I never had any, not that I never had, but I think I was never really taught to be influenced by any kind of creative like indulgences or any kind of creative hobbies. Like you could say gymnastics is creative. You can create your own moves, I guess, to submit to the code of points or the committee. And it's just like it's not the same as you know. I almost felt like when I came out to LA, I was like, now what? After my career, I was like, so okay, cool.
Yeah. I got
Is no one gonna send me a schedule for next week? Like, what's happening?
25 hours back in 2 weeks a week. What do I do with it?
Right. I'm like, where is the competition schedule? Like, I don't understand this real life. And I was just kind of taken back for a little bit, but then built, or I just kind of created my little home studio, music studio.
Mm,
And like you can see, like some of the panels
yeah.
back here, they're like,
Yeah.
the acoustic panels for sound deprivation and stuff. Um, and I bought all the equipment and everything, and I just started trying to teach myself. And it was just this is one of the best feelings in the world. It was a little bit of a how do I describe like a I had a mix of feelings, I guess, because just the how I ended my career and just having nobody out here at all in LA and not even friends, no family, no nobody. I was just like, I'm just gonna move to LA. Like, why not? Who doesn't do that? Like when
Yeah.
they're done with a sports career. Um, so I think looking back, it's been a really great tool for me to kind of apply to different parts of my life too, because I feel like I used to be such a gymnast in every other way, in every other part of my life that is just that wasn't working. And now that I have some kind of creative outlet, I can kind of tap into that in other spaces where I feel like it's just more fitted and comfortable for me.
Mm, yeah. That's rad, man. It's so cool to hear. I'm happy to hear you kind of find something like a pocket that's like completely your own and you're doing it for yourself. And you are still involved in gymnastics a little bit. Is that kind of out of, and be honest here, is it kind of out of like, you need money to support the side hustle stuff, or is it like you still want to be involved in gymnastics? I said you were working with like a local company there. Like what's going on with that?
I would say it's both. Like before, I really would be like, "Nah, I don't care about gymnastics anymore. I could do without it." But now that started coaching again, I'm like, "Oh, okay, I still do like gymnastics because I'll catch myself like trying to do something or like trying to do a flip or like just even a standing full. And I'm just like, okay, I still love this. I love to do it like myself,
Yeah.
but just the reality of like my injuries and everything, I've just kind of been like, yeah, no, not worth it. It's not worth the risk. I want to be able to walk if I ever somehow have children.
Yeah.
Want to be able to play with them. Like,
I get that too.
not,
I get razzed up on tumble track and I'm like, okay, this is it. This is it.
yeah, my body's had enough.
Yeah. And how about like from the coaching side? Like, is it weird flipping to the kind of coaching side now versus being an athlete your whole life?
It is kind of weird for me because I feel like I am not the best technical coach, but I feel like I can help with my knowledge of little exercises and drills that can help with different techniques or different gymnasts who might not just be understanding physically what to do.
Yeah.
So I think also just my experiences and passing that on to the next generation, trying to, you know, prepare them for what it's like to walk onto the Olympic stage. Uh, More so things like that than like technically coaching. Like
Yeah.
some coaches are, amazing coaches,
Right.
and for me, I'm not that. I'm more of a like I can inspire you and I can give you nice, tips, drills, and lead by example maybe. But I think technically, you know, I'll leave that to everybody else because I just don't have a passion for that at all.
Obviously, man, you've had a roller coaster with injuries, right? Like with the Achilles stuff and ACL and the timing of that. Speaking of timing, right?
Yeah.
I think that like that's something I reflect a lot on as someone who obviously treats probably like 70 gymnasts a month for different injuries and trying to have these conversations with 12-year-olds and their parents, right? I got young kids who have like shoulder surgery at 14 years old because
Oh,
it's super hard. And I'm like, bro, what are we doing here, man? Like you have a slap tear in your shoulder, you're 14 and you're trying to go to D1 college and then probably make like, or try to go on to others.
that's
Like,
what I was saying. That's what I was saying about what I think would need to change is the things like making us qualify for competitions that you are not going to choose us for. It just don't make no sense. We're going to get burned out for no reason. If you have a plan and you want to give everyone an equal opportunity, then just say that and do it.
yeah.
Don't have everyone killing themselves at every like competition, burning themselves out just to not be chosen, even if they do prove themselves. It just doesn't make no sense. Why
Yeah.
is it unnecessary?
It really is, especially for, I mean, someone that young, right? Like think about someone who's getting that pressure on them as a like 13, 14, 15-year-old kid, like, especially like, if things keep going well, you could be like 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. You could
I
train.
remember, man, I was not well received at the first few junior camps because I definitely had a little too. Uh, but I mean, this is also another whole can of worms. I was also one of the only black kids on the team for a long time, so that was just very awkward for me in itself, which made the two even worse probably. And I just remember I was not a numbers guy like ever.
Mm,
Like I would do the appropriate exceptional amount of numbers, and I'd get through the workouts where I was like 2 on 6, but I feel like I was never a big like 2 on 6 guy. Like I never needed numbers like that. I would get in, do my turns, do what I need to warm up, and that was it.
two
Um,
takes a piece of your soul some days, man. I remember that.
yeah, it ages you like 10 years in advance
Like
after you're done.
Like,
But it does make you feel like, wow, like I can do anything probably.
it does make you feel invincible after a while. That is
It's
true.
like I can live through anything now.
We had to do, I was a specialist in college, did 4 events. And so like 2
And then
months.
I think about the girls too,
Oh,
and I'm like, they're doing freaking 4-on-4 for like their one touch. I'm just like, wow.
dude,
I remember that's a whole other thing,
please go on, man. Keep going. Keep rolling. We got time.
Um, but yeah, I just was never that type. I was just my coach actually growing up in New York at World Cup Gymnastics. His name was Carl Schrade. I think he still coaches for Army Gymnastics. He always told me his mantra was quality over quantity.
Yep.
And that's the only reason I even know the definition of the words because of him. And he just like beat it into my head. He's
Yeah.
like, because he totally was very all about like fundamentals. Uh, you don't have to do crazy numbers to burn you out. Don't go for like, don't do like crazy stuff all the time in competition. He was all about consistent,
Yep.
you know, reliable, exceptional routines.
Yep.
So that was his mantra: quality over quantity, and that's definitely me in the gym.
Yeah. I agree. I'm 100% with you. And the thing is, like, a lot of the coaches I hear from, like, hear you say that or hear other people say that, and they say, like, but how do you develop a young elite level athlete without putting extra volume or extra numbers on them? Like, what do you do to try to keep them going? You know what I mean? And so I'm just curious your thoughts on that. Like, how do you stay on that path? I mean, you mentioned like basics and fundamentals and stuff, but
I think conditioning and
yeah,
stretching is really important. Like the prehab stuff, I think if they learn that early, they
yeah,
never they not that they would never get injured, but they're gonna be so much more prepared for like short landings
yeah,
or any kind of twisting into the ground. Their muscles and their in between all the little intricate muscles in between the tendons and everything around your bigger group muscles are going to be a little more prepared to crash or to be stretched. If you learn these things and if you keep up with your flexibility and you keep up with your conditioning, because you don't I just don't believe in, if you have the talent, which everyone at that level kind of is at the same, the same level.
mm,
So I just don't understand the point of doing numbers other than the psychological,
mm,
you know, uh, confidence.
yep,
Because I feel like that plays a big part into it. But some people don't need that. They don't need to do a million numbers till they're injured to feel confident enough to be like, oh, I can do this.
yeah,
If anything, I'm like, oh my god, I don't know how many more I could do of this. Like, I've done these a lot, so I don't want to compete and be like, oh my god, this is gonna be the one where it breaks.
yeah.
But that's just me. And some people are like, I have to do 100 before I just know I can compete it. I'm like, all right,
It's a lot of pounding, man.
yeah, but everyone's different too, which is the most important thing, I think. Knowing your gymnast individually,
Yeah,
knowing what they need, not trying to smush everybody into one field and say, no, just do this. It
yeah,
just don't work. You're not going to get the best, even if you want a team or individually, you still have to bring out the best in every individual.
right.
You know what I mean? So you
Absolutely.
have to do what's best. If there's 6 guys that need 6 different things on a team, then you better get those 6 different things like ready for them and comfortable enough for them to be like, great, go out there, do your performance. Because all 6 of them doing great, feeling great, being comfortable are gonna go out there and smash it, and they're gonna do what you want, which is get a medal if they're contenders.
Yeah, yeah.
That's just
I
how I
agree.
see it.
I agree. And it goes back to what you talked about is like communication. And that's hard ass work, man. As a coach, like you got to work your tail off outside the gym to know what each kid needs and write lesson plans and research stuff.
Yes.
It's hard. It's
It's a
hard.
lot of freaking work. That's why I know. I'm like, I don't know if I can do but I know what it does take. So why don't you just try to take it from the athletes
Mm,
for once?
yeah. Yeah. I mean, the best coaches in my experience are the ones that are able to have very open, honest communication lines, like you said, but also you said they know how to treat like, you know, this kid over here who's a little bit more shy and reserved and needs some effort. And this kid over here who's like a spitfire and doesn't need you yelling at him. He just needs you to be there for him. Then like one kid over here who just as strong as an ox, but technically needs some more stuff on the side. Like there's so many variants, different things you gotta tend to in a group of athletes.
Yes. Preach.
Preach. And kind of on the riding the injury train too, I think, unfortunately, I think the COVID year has brought coming back in season stuff. There's a lot of kids who are kind of banged up right now and are either like, dealing with an injury or coming back. I have way too many kids with surgery. So I'm wondering your advice to some of those kids or some of those parents or some of those coaches who are really in a tough spot right now.
Oof. I would say I have this whole list of things. It's like my little personal guide to getting through injuries.
Go on.
And it pretty much the Cliff Notes version is the first step is to be sad and acknowledge that it sucks and life isn't fair and you're gonna hate it for a long time.
Yep.
And once you do that, then really be done with it. Don't keep going back to feeling like that. Once you've taken enough time, everyone's different. You don't want to take too much time, obviously, but I think taking the exception amount of time to acknowledge the sadness and be sad and eat that piece of cake that you wanted to eat and don't worry about it and just cry and then then start the path to recovery, which I think mentally it starts with starting to jot down like your different goals, long term and short term. So long term, is probably going to be easier for them to be like Olympics, all this stuff. They already know what they want long term most of the time. And then short term goals, which are going to be the harder ones, which are going to be like, okay, I want to work. What are you going to work on while you're injured? If you're injured with your shoulder, if you have a shoulder injury, you better be working on your toe point. If you're serious about getting back and you want to go to the Olympics, you want to go to Worlds or make a college team, whatever you want to do, then start doing that. Start. There's always so many things. There's so many things that you can work on when you're injured that people they really forget. Like if you have an ankle injury, work on your handstand position. It's most likely if you're a junior athlete, it's not going to be perfect. And even if it is, you still got to start working on it for when you get out of the boot and start training again. So I would say make small goals and big goals, and really start striving towards them. And there's always something to work. You can talk to your coach. You can talk to your teammates. Also, accept your family's help too if they're there to help you. Because I feel like I was very like, don't help me. I don't want any help because my parents weren't gym parents, and I was just like just so sad. And I think in hindsight or in retrospect, I would have liked them to help me a little more, even though I told them actively not to. But let your parents be there for you too, because it's hard for them as well. It's not, it is about you, but it's like it's hard for them to watch their kid be injured. So, let them help and let them be a part of it, and don't like shut them out, because we don't know how annoying parents can be, especially at a time where you're like, I can't believe this is happening. Like I hate the world. You don't need that. But just kind of give your parents a break, sort of.
I want to jump in. I want to jump in because this is important, but retrospectively, like you said, there's some things that you wish your parents helped you more with. Looking at your younger self now, because there's a lot of parents who are going to listen to this, about like, what are those things that younger you wouldn't admit he needed help with, but older you says like, oh, you did need help with that?
I definitely needed help with not getting like down on myself. And I just was like, just always like, you don't know gymnastics, and you just don't know that was really bad, and I hate that, and I suck. And I mean, because they would watch me and be like, that was amazing. Like, but I'd be like, but I piked. That's a 10th. He's not gonna let me compete it now. Like, so I think they. I wish they would have been more stubborn about helping me with that part. But I think they just wanted it so bad too that they were like, you'll be fine. Like, instead of just being like, stop talking to yourself like that, or stop saying that. Because parents should be doing that with their kid. It's not a good, that's one of the habits that I don't like that I took with me from gymnastics, which was like perfectionist, like still not good enough. Still not good enough. Like, I can't show this. I can't reveal this. This is terrible. It's just too, in gymnastics, it gets to that level at the elite where it gets a little psychotic
Yeah.
to be applying it to other things in your life.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you get like trapped inside of that perfection, right? There's like no way out. It's always never good enough, never good enough, never good enough.
Yeah. So that's one thing. And then I think nothing injury wise though. They're great injury wise.
Cool.
The injury that part of it was more for the kids to give their parents a break to like let them
Yeah.
be a part of it and like it's okay for them to be sad
Yeah.
too. And then after that, just listening to your doctor, not trying to rush into it, especially if you're young. Even if the Olympics is next year and you want to get ready for it, just don't sacrifice your long-term career for your short-term goal of going to this Olympics. If you really take your time and recover, like you can probably shift. You can have a huge shift in your career where now you started working on your toe point and like you started working on rings and or doing something that you didn't do before because of this allotted time you have now due to your injury. It might change everything, and then you'll have like a great shot at making the Olympic team.
Yeah.
So I think just really taking your time is super important. Not letting anybody or anything rush your recovery. It's just
Yeah.
not worth it.
Yeah. You ever hear Dave Durani's story with this? It's hilarious. You mentioned this. Dave Durani,
No.
so trained his whole life to go to Stanford. First day, first turn, tore his ACL at Stanford. And
Oh my God. Oh no.
Dave, if you're listening here, bro, I love you to death. He told this story. So
David. Oh.
that he tore his ACL and instantly his coach at Stanford, I don't know at the time, he was like, great, we can fix your awful handstand. And Dave was like, what? I got a great handstand. He's like, no, dude, your handstand's terrible. So he
He has a
literally
great handstand now.
now he does because of this incident. So he spent all of his time, his first like 6
Oh,
months at Stanford, just going bananas. And then look who was a ring specialist who had a great handstand and was super strong. Like all he did was just get yoked.
that handstand at that time too, at the in that what is it, quadrennium, was like his handstand was like, wow.
Yeah. And I think it was, he told me it was because of the ACL tear and the whole situation like that, that he had that much time to work on his strength, and his handstand became like one of his biggest weapons back then.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I used to love watching him like compete.
He's a,
Like his lines and everything, it was just, and his toe point and everything. And yeah, I think pretty sure he was coached by Vitaly after Stanford, and I was just like, okay, I want to look like that. And Vitaly tried his best, but
yeah.
yeah.
And he's just one of the best dudes I've ever met in my entire life. He's such a great dude. He's got such a great work ethic, and also he just cares a lot about people, which is awesome to see him still involved in the sport. But I'll tell the other half of the story while we're bantering here. So
Yeah.
dude, he finishes gymnastics. Dave, brace for impact, man. I love you to death if you're listening. He finishes gymnastics. He's like, after the Olympics, whatever. He's like, I'm done with gymnastics. He wants to go to Italy and like start a vineyard, right? He wants to go skiing because he's too scared to ski with his knees, right? Anything like that. So he goes with his buddy to Italy, and he's on his first slope. His buddy's like, no, this one's like easy. It's no big deal. Like, you're gonna be fine. It looks pretty steep, man. I don't know, right? So Dave
Oh
goes
no.
right, torn ACL in the middle.
Oh, the same one?
I don't know if it's the same one, but
Oh.
he's in the middle of like this snowdrift in Italy, just laying there.
How did I get here again?
Man, but it's a wild story because he actually stayed in Italy and started coaching again, fell back in love with the sport, and then his whole company, Power Monkey, evolved out of his time coaching in Italy, which is when he got into CrossFit and stuff. So it's a
Wow.
tragic story followed by an up, and then a tragic followed by an up. So
What else are you supposed to do?
yeah, he's just in Italy, just rehabbing with like a bunch of old Italian women. Like he's like this one giant yoke dude. It's so
I can see him. I can see it.
I love that story. And he's told me a lot of times, so I think I'm allowed to say that, but if not, we'll edit it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing I wanted to come back to is I think the timeline rushing back from an injury is like one of the biggest things we still deal with, man. I mean, like I said, I treat a ton of people. The second they get out of a boot, like, when can I tumble? When can I do it? I'm like, bro, you literally broke your leg. Like, give us a couple months to get you back. And the coach is like, when can they start? What can they do? I don't mean like what can they do in the gym around their injury. It's like, we need to compete. This meet's coming up. This college is looking. We got to go. Parents in my ears, coaches. And I'm like, guys, like basic science says we're not good to go for at least a couple more months. Like,
Right.
I don't know. How do you deal with that as an athlete when, like, obviously I know as an athlete, I want to get back faster, but like, it's not worth it.
Me personally, from my experience, I felt like what I wish I would have, like, if I would have told myself probably that, it's about you. This is about you now, and your health and your body. So don't listen to anybody. You have to be more mindful about how your body feels
Mm.
versus what you want to do. Because I see it and I've experienced it. People literally trick themselves into thinking like, "Oh, I'm fine. I'm great. It's fine. It doesn't even hurt that much." It's like, yes, it does because you're not ready. Like, just take your time.
Yeah.
It's And that's one of the things that I wish that I had someone to tell me that, because I was just obsessed with, oh, I'm not gonna make it in time. Like, this is it. I have to get back. This is my only shot.
Mm.
And not that it's anyone's fault around me, but I felt like I definitely lacked the support there of saying like, hey, it's okay.
Mm.
It's gonna be okay if you don't make the Olympics. Like, you're gonna live.
And I want to go back to it too. This is a collision course of I'm happen to read some really like books and studies and stuff on like the value of people around your circle who give you that kind of like that support and stuff. The best
Uh-huh.
people show in research who can get you through hard times like that are the ones that validate your pain, but then also give you perspective. So they're like, hey, I know this sucks. It's gonna be bad, but like, let's take a step back and think about the bigger picture. I think it's like what great coaches and what great parents and what great friends do is like, hey man,
Yeah.
this is awful, but like, listen, like bigger picture here. Like, it's not the end of the world. We're gonna find a way through this. Like, let's think critically about this because you're so emotionally revved up in your head that like
You're just too in it. You're just too in it.
nonstop in your head, nonstop.
You're too in it. And I mean, the whole system is purposely made for you to kind of be there. So you have to have people on the outside to be able to do that. If you want this to work.
Yeah.
So I share the same sentiment.
Yeah. And the other thing too that always comes to my mind too that people always, talk to me about that are worried about is like the fear of re-injury. I think that's a huge one too. And obviously giving yourself more time and having people around you is a way to do that. But I mean, not to bring up the sore subject, but like you gotta that was big, right? The
Yeah.
Achilles heel, like how do you it's two questions. How do you worry about the fear of injury? And if it happens again, like how in the hell do you come back another time from something tragic like that?
It sounds very dismissive and basic, but you honestly literally don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Like, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
It's I mean, obviously, if it's hurting or if it's, stinging or something, then, stop.
Yeah.
You know your body.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about psychologically,
Yeah. I think it's like it doesn't hurt, but you're just like in
it
the back of
takes,
your mind, it's always worried.
yeah, it's not that simple, just not to worry about it. But you have to, if you have to, train your mind. You have to train your mind to be like, it's fine.
Mm.
Or you can be that athlete. You can call your, PT or athletic trainer and be like, is this okay? It feels like this. You can be that guy that calls in at 3 in the morning, like, oh my God, like I just woke up to pee and it hurts. Like, what does this mean? Whatever you need to do to get yourself to the point of confidence where you're more worried about your corrections when
Mm.
you compete, not
Mm.
worried about, is this gonna tear? Because at that point, there's no thinking about that. If you're raising your hand to compete and you're thinking about that, you already made yourself lose. Even if you did a great routine, you might get through it, but like that energy and that manifestation that you're gonna like bring out of that is just not good for like competition at all.
It's bad,
So
bad vibes, man.
it's no, I'm serious. I think honestly,
Get it.
vibrationally, competitions are like nuts. I think they definitely exist on like a vibratory level. Like I
Mm.
remember, I'll never forget 2012. I think it was vault finals, and like men's vault finals, and almost everybody stuck their
Yeah.
vaults,
Yeah.
and like one guy like kind of like uh, spazzed out or something. And that's when I feel like he was on the out group of the vibratory levels. He was like, I mean, I don't know this, I don't know for sure, but it just seemed like logically, like he, probably like he was on this level, and so everyone else was here, and you could just see it, and it just like it manifested itself. And it brought out the best in everybody. And then if you're not there, you're probably gonna like, crash and burn somewhere else in another vibratory level, because maybe there's a lot going on in your mind. Maybe it's very negative.
Mm.
Maybe it's very anxious energy. And if it doesn't mix, it's gonna show. And I
Mm.
think it's very evident in competition sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, that speaks to what the training beforehand, the confidence in yourself, like doing the work. If you put in all the effort and the work and the grind up until that point, like why in the world would you dig yourself in a hole by listening to all that noise in your head?
Every competition was really fun. Like I had a lot of fun, and I most of the time did really good because I was just like having a lot of fun. And because like I'm there already, like I can't do anything else. I'm not gonna do some new technique before I do my routine. I'm not gonna like
Wow.
kick extra hard on my Takachev. I'm not gonna do anything crazy now.
Yeah.
So like I'm not gonna think about nothing different now. So I'm just gonna have fun. Like this is the fun part of it. This is the time to like just go do it. Do
Mm.
whatever happens, happens if you are scared. That's what I would say. Like if you're scared and you can't stop being scared, and maybe it's hard for you to talk yourself into the confidence, because I've been there before too. It's hard to talk yourself into the confidence because you feel like you're just like lying to yourself.
Yeah.
So maybe it maybe seems fake to you. Like that's fine. Then if you're that type of person, then maybe try going with the perspective of like, all right, whatever happens, like here we go. Because you can't do nothing different now. You can't.
Yeah. You're
That's
living
the whole point of your practices. So you do it just like that.
the words out of
And
my mouth.
don't not time for nothing different.
Exactly. No drastic changes.
so so if you can't be like, okay, I'm gonna hit this out of the park, your practices are a little iffy, then just be like, I can't do nothing now. Just go for it.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Have fun.
Do you have a like a top two highlighted moments like of all time? Like when you look back on all your stuff, is there like a one or two that stick out as like that was legit, that was the best?
I would say competing pommel horse at the 2016 test event.
Mm.
I think it was finals because I remember my practices were really good, and I was getting all in my head because I hadn't competed. Everyone was talking all this garbage about like my injuries and coming back, and my family and my mama died and all this stuff, and like it's like all the reporters are always like, we want what's best for you and to be really prepared mentally, but also your dead mom. Like, how do you feel about that?
Jesus,
And I'm like,
Jesus.
what?
Anything
So
for a story, right?
and then there's those couch Olympians like eating popcorn and like you can't even compartmentalize. What a little freaking loser, 19-year-old. You can't freaking do that. And so you're just like, gonna hit at all angles here. Um, I feel like that's why I just made it so important to like just go have fun, because it's not about anybody else at that point. It's just you.
Mm.
So literally, that's the time to leave it all out and leave it on the floor and just go for it.
Yeah, man. That's rad. And you mentioned something too. You're saying like it was so fun back then, like it was a blast. Like that's what I think
Oh yeah.
like what makes it fun? Like what makes it enjoyable for you as an athlete when you're that young, from like that coaches and parents appealing? Because right now there are a lot of athletes. It is not fun. It is a chore. It feels like a drag, and they are burnt out, man. So like, what do we do to make it enjoyable for people's experiences?
Hmm. You know what? I feel like this is something that hasn't been done in gymnastics, but I feel like bringing more entertainment to it. Every huge sport in the US has an entertainment aspect.
Absolutely.
NFL, NBA, all of them. They're all like part of the entertainment world, and we're like the only ones who we are part of the entertainment world for the like 3 weeks that people remember that the Olympics exist.
Yeah.
And that's only between like the committee and the selective media companies that will even allow somebody to tell their story
Mm.
or just choose them. And it's like very slim pickings most of the time. It's not like everyone gets a huge feature every time they make Olympic team.
Yeah.
So or not like not everyone gets the same treatment all the time.
Yeah.
So I think bringing more entertainment to it somehow,
Yeah.
like let the TikTokers come in to the competition to do TikToks with somebody, like indulge in it, like make a like IG page for crazy interview questions while people do handstands, and
Mm.
just like just stuff like that. I feel like there's like
college women's gymnastics is clearly knocking that out of the park.
Exactly. They're doing like viral routines. They're doing all this stuff. They're doing like, that's what I'm saying. Like, hop on it.
Yeah.
Like, what are y'all waiting for? We're the only ones slacking. Freaking Italy has a whole like MTV show, I think, for gymnastics.
I'm not aware.
Like, yeah, something like that. They have the Bundesliga,
Oh yeah. Yep.
and they televise that. Like, men's gymnastics in the U.S., like we never get no shine ever. Even when it is nationals, we get like the last 10 minutes after like.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm just like, I just think that would be a good idea.
I don't want to keep it too long. It's getting late. But first of all, what is your new Instagram handle? Because I wanted to make sure we talked about that.
Oh, the John Orozco.
Yeah, you were hacked.
Oh, I was hacked. I'm still trying to like re-hack into it. Right, all these sketchy IG people. I'm so tired of it.
Yeah. Follow handle.
Yeah, the John Orozco. See, it's this one.
Oh, there he is. Yep, everyone follow that one. We'll get you up
on
there.
my crack screen. I've been just running around and just dropping things on it, unloading the car with like equipment and gymnastics.
That's terrible. That's terrible for that. And then kind of just wrapping up, like what's on your radar? What's going on in the future? Like what do you got going on? Like floor is yours to kind of shout out a little bit. Like what's shaking?
I think I've been. Oh yeah, I have some songs out there already out. I think I'm gonna do a whole relaunch though, because I feel like I was way too eager to get it out and I didn't have any plan. I was just like, yeah, put it out. That's how you do music, right? And they're like, no. So I think I want to make more of a solid plan for all the releases and distributing my music in the future, which I have a Instagram page for that too. It's called John Orozco Sound, I believe. And then my photography page is Orozco Photography.
Cool.
Or John Orozco Photography. I'm pretty sure you'll find it.
I'll find it.
But pretty much, yeah. That's it for the future, really. I think I'm gonna start doing like rehabilitation stretch videos and putting them up on something like Patreon or something where I can make a little money from it.
Yeah.
And then probably just put it on YouTube after anyway for free. So I think I'm gonna start doing that. So that's something to look forward to in the future, as well as the music and just different photography projects that I'm gonna be putting out through all the different Instagram handles that I have attached to the John Orozco.
Sweet, man. No, that sounds awesome. Well, man, trust me, I greatly appreciate your insight. I'm sure a lot of people here will appreciate your wisdom from your years. So I appreciate your time. Thanks for everything.
Absolutely. Thanks.